space shuttle. As for when it would be over,
Okay, Eric, thanks.
Okay.
As Eric mentioned, the devastation of the California fires is being fueled by gusting winds, better known as the Santa Ana winds.
Sally is joining us a little bit early tonight to fill us in on just how harsh those winds can be. Sally?
Jack, what we're looking at is a picture of, believe it or not, the smoke from those fires in Southern California. Here's the coastline of California. These pictures coming to us from the space shuttle. They zoomed in their cameras on the fires, and you can see how the smoke is pouring out over the ocean. That's what it looks like from space. And as we said, these fires being fueled by the Santa Ana winds. Just what are Santa Ana winds? What it is when high pressure sets up in the west, clockwise flow spreads a northeast or easterly wind over the mountains. Once the wind comes over the mountains, it descends, it compacts, it warms up and speeds up. It'll speed up even greater if it has to go through a canyon. Winds today were up to 60 miles per hour. Tonight, they're around 35 to 45 miles an hour. They should be letting up over the next couple of days, but this situation may reestablish itself over the weekend. Still, it'll be breezy with winds up around 20 miles an hour at least tonight. That's what the Santa Ana winds are. And when you add the wind to the fire, of course, it just fuels it. And we don't look for a huge let-up in the winds, just a little bit over the next couple of days. Back to you.
Okay, Sally, we'll see you in a few more minutes. Back here at home, residents of a local apartment building got quite a scare this morning. Parma firefighters say that a heating unit started a fire that caused damage throughout the building. Firefighters were able to contain the fire on Lawrence Street to just one apartment, but the entire building had smoke damage. One person was treated for injuries. No word yet on how much was lost in that blaze.
Detectives in East Cleveland are narrowing down leads tonight in their search for the suspects who shot a mechanics warehouse employee. The shooting of 25-year-old Ronald Spence was captured on the surveillance video Friday evening. He was shot in the face by two men who pulled guns and demanded money. The suspects fled without any cash. Spence claims he does not know the identity of the two men. Detectives say they have a lead on one suspect. Meantime, Spence has been moved out of the intensive care unit at Meridia Huron Hospital. His family has set up a fund for him. Donations can be made in Spence's name at any National City Bank branch. In Akron today, a teenager was arraigned on felonious assault charges. 19-year-old Larry Matthews, is accused of shooting 16-year-old Morris Jackson at this bus stop yesterday afternoon. Matthews and a 17-year-old companion allegedly fought with Jackson over a stolen Mickey Mouse pendant. Matthews' bond was set at $100,000, and he remains in jail tonight. His 17-year-old friend is in the hands of juvenile authorities. Jackson is listed in fair condition at Akron Children's Hospital.
A not guilty plea tonight from an Ohio truck driver charged in the strangulation death of a 17-year-old runaway. 36-year-old James Cruz is charged with first, second, and third-degree murder, plus kidnapping, rape, and robbery. He's accused of killing Marie Birnbaum of Poland, Maine. Her body was found last March, dumped in a snowbank near a highway in Pennsylvania. Prosecutors say they plan to seek the death penalty. Cruz is also considered a suspect in unsolved highway murders in Ohio and several other states. Tonight he's being held without bond in a county jailhouse near State College, Pennsylvania. The Ohio Supreme Court has thrown out the conviction of a Cleveland woman who burned a flag during a Gulf War protest. Cheryl Lesson, a member of the Revolutionary Communist Party, was convicted of inciting violence during a protest in downtown Cleveland 3 years ago. Today, the Supreme Court ruled a Cuyahoga County judge failed to tell the jury that flag burning was protected under the First Amendment and was not proof of Lesson's guilt. Lesson says she's happy with today's ruling, but says it doesn't prove that the system works.
It's been 3.5 years during which I've been under virtual house arrest, banned from leaving Cuyahoga County for standing with our sisters and brothers in Iraq, and for saying and meaning the U.S. and all its might, revolutionary war is the one we'll fight.
Because the case was thrown out on a technicality, Lesson could be tried again. At this time, Cuyahoga County prosecutors are not commenting.
It's one of the most bizarre stories that's gained international attention. The mummified remains of the circus performer Tambo Tambo were discovered in Cleveland recently. Tonight comes word the final preparations are being made for Tambo Tambo's return home and proper burial. Bill Martin has the very latest on the Aborigine who died here more than a century ago.
Tambo Tambo died of pneumonia in a Cleveland hotel room 109 years ago. The body was embalmed at the old C.J. Smith & Son funeral home, but apparently abandoned by any friends. Tonight, more than a century later, the remaining family, Aboriginal groups, and the Australian government are making final arrangements for Tambo Tambo's return home. Mike Williams is consul at the Australian Embassy.
Certainly that the remains are wanted back in Australia, and they're wanted back where in Palm Island, where Tambo Tambo came from, and that he will be buried in accordance with the Aboriginal tribal rights.
At least one anthropologist in London believes Tambo Tambo had been part of a group of native Australians, kidnapped in 1883 by circus agent Robert Cunningham. And circus experts I've talked with theorize P.T. Barnum, who is then running the Barnum and Great London Circus, may have wanted the Aborigines for a tented venue called the Ethnological Congress, a bizarre cultural showcase. Almost as bizarre, neighbors of the funeral home like Red Capasso say the mummified remains were used to frighten children.
When he would always call my children over to scare them once in a while, bring them downstairs, and the bodies were there, and they would come up excited and nervous and everything else.
Tambo Tambo will be buried on his native Palm Island in the very north of Queensland, Australia. A descendant of Tambo, Walter Palm Island of Townsville, is relaying his wishes through the Australian government.
We've been assured, and I'm sure, that they're being treated and will be treated with great dignity, and that's our utmost concern because of the seriousness that all Australians view the return of Aboriginal remains back to Australia.
Folks at the Australian Embassy say there's no time frame on when the body will be leaving the coroner's office on its way to Australia. But they do add they're in constant contact with the sole surviving family member to make sure there is a proper burial. I'm Bill Martin for the 10 o'clock news.
And still ahead on the 10 o'clock news, the Clintons make some changes in their health care plan. You'll find out the details on their latest push for reform.
Plus dramatic pictures of a crash involving 2 military helicopters. We'll have the latest.
And a little bit later on, shopping fiends, pay attention. We'll take you to the newest supersized store in the world. Stay with us.
I'll take good care of it.
Sure.